Where do I start? So I'm Emily Summers, and it's difficult sometimes to sort of pin it down with what you do, you know, in one word, one sentence, but I suppose like producer, facilitator, actor, writer, many things. My time is separated into probably like 10% acting and performance, and then the rest of it, the bulk of it can be project management, funding applications, but lots of creative delivery and working with people, whether that's in the community, for professional theatres, festivals, or in education as well. When I was growing up, my elder brother, who's 6 years older than me, he was a big musical theatre fan. And I suppose when I was a baby, I was sat watching him play piano, sing, and then when I was old enough and could walk, he was immediately directing me in musicals. So we would do like Oliver on the Landing, and I would play all the parts, he would play all the parts. We did Les Mis, we were multi-rolling. And I remember when I got a bit older and I got a bit sick of him directing me, and I was like, no, Daniel, you know, I want to be in charge now and I'm not going to listen to you anymore. But I'd learned so much. We used to perform together. I learned how to play piano and drums as well. And my other brother, he's also a performer and a musician. My grandma and granddad grew up in that time, you know, World War II time as young people, where music and singing and dancing was really important. And it kept them going. It was what made them really happy. And they gave that passion of performance to us, as well as my dad, who, you know, would have really loved to be an actor and was a teacher and a real performer and still performs. You know, he's like a poet now and does all sorts. So people do say that we're like the Von Trapps, and it started like that. But yeah, so I decided, okay, you want to act, that's definitely something you want to do. You want to make stuff happen, however that works. You want to make maybe your own work, write your own stuff. For my masters, I'd written a one-woman show about my granddad, about the first 20 years of his life, because his upbringing was so interesting. So I play him in the show, and I took this show up to Edinburgh in 2012 to the Fringe and performed it on a double-decker bus and had no idea. Went up there on my own, didn't know what I was doing, didn't know what it was going to be like. It was with the free Fringe, so I hadn't had to pay much to be there. And I made money because if you move people, they'll give you a donation at the end, and that was when people used to carry more cash, so that was handy. So this show did really well, and then it toured around like small venues and rural venues and venues in the Black Country and for different audiences. I think like the smallest place I did it was in a garage somewhere in Stratford-upon-Avon, and about 4 people came. But again, it was me making stuff happen. And then in 2014, a friend of mine who I'd done a theatre and education tour with, which is an experience, he knew someone who worked at the Birmingham Hippodrome and got me a meeting with her about facilitating and working with young people. And I don't know that was something that I ever really thought I would do or that I was bothered about. My mum and dad were both teachers, but I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be any good at this. But she got me into this school, this Smethwick school, where they weren't very sure about whether they wanted to do musicals, whether they wanted to do drama at all. And then the kids that we worked with, you know, 2 years down the line, I was writing shows for them, specifically for them, like adaptations of fairy tales with different music in, and directing them in musicals, and it changed the way that I looked at working with young people and seeing the difference it could make. So then I started to facilitate more and more, and I thought, oh, I'm earning some money, this is great. And I was doing some work in events management as well. Every Halloween, I run a Halloween festival down in Leighton Buzzard, which we employ 150 young actors. It's absolute chaos. And then a choreographer that I was working with, who I became really good friends with, Claire, we said to one another, well, why don't we set up something? Why don't we set up an organisation that is ours, where we have ownership over our work? Because that's also very frustrating. You do good work for people, but it's not under your name. So you can't say that's our work. You often don't have any of the rights to any of the footage around it, any of the images around it. And if you're writing pieces of theatre and you want to be able to like shout about it, I was like, yeah, we should do something. So we set up Boston Creative Arts and Theatre, CIC, which is a not-for-profit organisation. based in Black Country in Birmingham, to do projects which empower people, encourage people through creativity and different art forms, and encourage people to embrace who they are, to tell stories, because I love, like, you know, that story seed with my granddad and that show. I love stories and telling, you know, real people's stories, using real people's voices. We're only small, so it's still a growing process. But since 2018 to now, so I suppose 5 years, we've been running and have been funded by Arts Council, the Heritage Fund, Creative Black Country, Commonwealth last year with Birmingham City Council, working with Canuck this year. We've done some really exciting things, and yeah, Boston Creative Arts and Theatre now exists as a vehicle to be able to partner and create with brilliant people and also work with young people and mentor them as well. So I think that's where I am. And then I'm still, when I can, acting and performing, whether that's a pantomime every year, whether that's new writing and new theatre, and through connections that I've made in the Midlands. But the Midlands, I think, sometimes gets a bit of a bad rap, and people think, oh, there's not a lot going on there, but that couldn't be more wrong. Don't think that your own doorstep isn't an inspiring place. Don't think that the people around you can't inspire you, because the biggest, I've got to make me emotional, for goodness sake, but the biggest inspiration for me, what it is still my grandparents. That's awesome, isn't it? You know, to be like, to have inspiration around you and to go, God, you know, I'm gonna make something with that. Don't think, oh, the area that I live in isn't, you know, there isn't much going, or, you know, no, like, the communities around you are full of life and artistic potential and creativity. So, you know, kind of look for that on your doorstep as well as looking outwards. That's great, that's going to inform you, but also don't be afraid to look around you and see that you can do something with where you are and with where you're at, and that you can make a difference. And also, I would say to, like, young budding creatives, but if you want to do something, why don't you do it? What do you want to do? Don't wait for someone to tell you that you're good enough to do it. You need to do it yourself. So that's where I am now. Probably missed out a lot. Used to do some pub quizzes as well, but that's not that interesting. So yeah, that's where I am now.